Howdy, guys. Jimmy Song here. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Tech Talk, where I am going to go through a lot of the stories that I mentioned in my newsletter. This is a show to review some of the technical things that I found interesting in the past week with regard to Bitcoin, Lightning Network, and some other stuff. Anyway, let's get straight to it. There's a lot of different stories I want to share with you guys. So let's take a look. All right, let's go to the right application window. And here we are. Here's the Tech Talk newsletter, and it was it came out this morning. Obviously, subscribe to it if you haven't. The links are in the show notes. Anyway, let's take a look. Issue number 116. It is December 24th. By the way, Merry Christmas, everybody. It is going to be tomorrow, and it is Christmas Eve today. So good to be around for that. All right, so let's take a look at the first story: analysis of Dust UTXOs. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Dhruv Banzel, I think. Anyway, he goes into I think Unchain Capital, really good analysis of what Dust transactions are and sort of the economics behind that. Because obviously you need to be able to spend them, but there's a fee that needs to be paid. And if the fee is higher than the Dust amount, then it's economically unreasonable to go and spend them. So, we go through all of the different ways in which this happens. There's a balanced percentile, which is really interesting. We go through, let's see, the UTXO balances and how much of it is where and so on. Really good graphs and a very good explanation of what type of UTXOs there are, and what the percentage and number of bytes that are required to spend it and so on. But I mean, basically, there's an analysis here that's really cool. It says here, 40 to 50% of all UTXOs had value densities below the average fee of 600 to 700 Satoshi per byte. This was back about a year ago when fees were really, really high. The fee market dramatically cooled off through 2018. Today, 10 to 15% of UTXOs still have value densities below the average fees of 20 to 30 Satoshi per byte. Only 3 to 5% have value densities below 1 to 2 Satoshi per byte. And that's, I think, on the high end. Basically, you can spend pretty much anything right now. And if you do have Dust, right now would be the time to go and consolidate them. The key here is that as of last year, it was like $25 million to $50 million of Dust on a market cap of $225 billion. Right now, there's a much lower market cap of $65 billion, but there's only about $300,000 worth of Dust, and that's kind of a tax on every node, right? Because if you're a full node, you have to keep track of every UTXO to make sure that you know when it's getting spent and so on. So in a sense, it's now would be the time to go and consolidate a lot of these really small transactions or do something with them, put them into a Lightning channel or something like that as a way to consolidate it and make it less burdensome for everybody else. Anyway, there's some speculations here on how to reduce the Dust and so on, and how miners do it, and like the different constituencies and how they think about it. But this is a really good article. I would encourage you guys to read it if you're interested in sort of the economics. All right, next story we have is a Blockstream Satellite upcoming API announcement. Obviously, they Blockstream, covered more of the world with their satellite. They have a new API, and this is sort of still being developed. But if you want to know about, transmitting various messages, I think it's via satellite. This is what you are supposed to use. So you can apparently, transmit messages via their satellite, and it could be pretty much anything, which is an interesting model because Bitcoin makes, like transmission of particular bytes actually pretty interesting. Anyway, the API is already here. You can definitely build on it. Really interesting stuff. All right, next one. This is the block prop paper. This is a Bitcoin fork analysis. This isn't like the hard forks of Bitcoin, like Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Diamond and stuff like that. That's not what this is talking about. This is talking about the orphan rate and sort of what happens when miners find blocks around the same time, and what the probability of your block getting in if you find it right around the same time as somebody else is. And they came to the conclusion that it's pretty much linear. So if you find it first, you're more likely to get it in. And there doesn't seem to be that much collusion, other than we show that the observed frequency of short block intervals between two consecutive blocks mined by the same miner after a fork is conspicuously large. So basically, they're saying that there might be a little bit of selfish mining going on. This is where you don't release that block just yet. If there's like a second block that happens right away, then you sort of like release it in case the miner found a first block. They sort of look for a second block as a way to, even if they found it after somebody else found the block, it's a way to get in their Coinbase awards and so on. So really interesting paper. I encourage you to take a look at it. Next one is about scriptless scripts. Andy Polstra finally put up a GitHub of all of the actual specifications and what scriptless scripts are. Let me enlarge this window just a little bit so you guys can see it. There's all sorts of details, and it does get a little bit heavy on math, but it goes through all of his ideas about what scriptless scripts are good for. Basically, you can do a lot of interesting things just using the signature component instead of having an entire smart contract language like script in Bitcoin. So instead of using that, you use scriptless scripts, or you use the random component or something like that as a way to create different scripts and or different ways of processing different things. And that's a very interesting idea. It's finally documented. All right, next story is about TX Probe, and this has to do with discovering Bitcoin's network topology using orphan transactions. So once again, we're taking a look at transactions and seeing, where they originate, what the actual topology of Bitcoin looks like. There's a really cool graph right here about where the actual nodes are being run, and it's a very interesting idea, and it's a good way to think about the network topology of Bitcoin. I think an analysis of that using something like Lightning eventually would be really interesting as well. Anyway, good technical paper. Encourage you guys to look at it as well. All right, the cheapest art in history. So Crypto Graffiti actually created this really interesting art piece out of dollar bills. Took like tiny pieces out of dollar bills and made this black swan, making fun of black swan stuff, related stuff. But the auction was really interesting because it said whoever pays me the least, that's not zero or negative, will win this auction. And the winner was BTC Spot, who submitted a 1 millisatoshi bid. Hilarious, right? 1 millisatoshi is equivalent right now to, like a very tiny fraction of a penny, which was, like kind of a world record for the least, positive non-zero payment for a piece of art. So congrats to doing this really great proof of concept on how Lightning can enable micropayments, because I mean, like that is such a small amount that like that's like on the order of I think Adam Back said like grains of sand, right? Like how much a grain of sand might cost or something like that. Anyway, really cool stuff. Or maybe like one sheet of toilet paper or something, I imagine would be much more expensive than this piece of art. Anyway, cool stuff. Read about it. Offline payments using Lightning Network. So this is a really interesting concept because with Lightning, you usually have to have the private key online. But there's this interesting data piggybacking thing, and there's a proposal by ZMN SCP-XJ. Online Lightning node prepares a set of invoices, and basically this is like supposedly like a vending machine that's only gets data once in a while or something like that. The offline vending machine stores the payment hash, salt, and invoice signature. The customer arrives and indicates the desire to purchase. And basically, the offline vending machine presents an unclaimed invoice. Upon paying, the vending machine instructs the customer to enter the first six digits of the payment pre-image. The vending machine looks through its list of unclaimed invoices to find one where the 6 digits concatenated with the salt hash to the given payment hash. If so, then it dispenses the product. So really cool concept. So basically, the idea is you create a bunch of prepaid invoices and load it onto a machine that doesn't have any internet connection. And what this allows is you can go to the vending machine and pay with the Lightning Network. And then as part of that payment, you get a pre-image hash, and you can enter basically the first 6 digits into the vending machine that basically releases the product. Now, if you can hack into the machine, you can probably get out that 6-digit code and then like be able to do it. But if you were going to do that, then you'd probably crack the vending machine and just steal everything out of it anyway. So like the concept is really, really cool that you can have an offline vending machine that could take Lightning payments, right? Like it's just like these prepaid invoices that exist on the machine that are sort of preloaded. And as soon as you do the Lightning payment, the counterparty gives you the pre-image, and you could use that pre-image as a way to enter it into the vending machine. Really, really cool stuff, guys. Really, really cool. Anyway, when I read that, I was just sort of like blown away by how clever that was. All right, next one, BTCP pre-mine revealed. So this was a story going around yesterday. So Bitcoin Private, brainchild of, I think, Greg Creighton and some other people. It was sort of like a fork merge of Bitcoin and Z Classic. It was a Bitcoin hard fork kind of, except they imported all of the UTXOs. Turns out that they had a stealth pre-mine of about 2 million coins. And the reason that they could do that was because of shielded transactions in Zcash. So Z Classic is Zcash without any pre-mine. But then as a part of Bitcoin Private, they added another 2 million, but they tried not to let anybody know about it by putting it into these stealth transactions. Kind of scummy behavior. And they present all sorts of evidence about this, talking about like what are the possible explanations, and then it just goes through and says, okay, like they're clearly just scamming everybody by doing this stealth pre-mine. So pre-mines have become more or less normal after Ethereum, which is kind of stupid, to be honest. Like, why should you give these developers lots and lots of the money supply? It's they more or less become a central bank like right away because they have most of the reserve. Whereas Bitcoin was fair and everything else. I mean, this is one of the things that you can do when you have access to the self-mining and so on. A lot of Bitcoin hard forks have done pre-mines, Bitcoin Gold being sort of the first one. Lots of other ones have done like stealth pre-mines or whatever. I guess it's not technically a pre-mine. It's like a mid-mine or something like that. But without anyone knowing, they put it in because they had the shielded transactions from Zcash. So anyway, pretty scummy behavior. This is I think that caused like a giant fall in Bitcoin private price. Actually, let's look at that private price. Let's see. I think I have to put BTCP price, and we can go take a look at it in here. And if we look at like the last day or so, you can see that there was like a pretty big drop. Right after that article came out, it went from like $2.70. Well, it went from $2.40 straight down to below $2, and now it's trading at around $2. So yeah, I mean, it had a fairly significant drop. So yeah, that's Bitcoin private, wreck, freight, and scam. So yeah, there we go. All right, final one is app tokens are an anti-pattern. Article by Zain Alarakia, and this is all about how tokens are really kind of, app tokens especially, are really rent-seeking, right? Like they try to tax transactions and capture value that way. But his argument is if they're at all useful, then you could just fork without any of that tax and, use something like Bitcoin instead to do a lot of the actual transactions. And it reminds me a lot of Daniel Krawis's classic article on Satoshi Nakamoto Institute. I think it's called App Coins Are Snake Oil. This was before he sort of went over to the Bitcoin Cash side and so on. But this is talking all about why app tokens don't make any sense, and Zain is basically saying the same thing but giving much more solid examples of Brave for one and 0x. Neither of them really should get paid, right? Like they're really rent seekers. They're taxing transactions for no reason, and like you're paying them for no reason. So. Really interesting article. I encourage you guys to take a look at it. Anyway, that's about it for the actual Bitcoin Tech Talk portion of the show. Let's take a look at some questions. Let's see. Paper scan, routing, Lightning. Can we discuss BTC node? Who is running it? Is there a decline in Bitcoin nodes out there? Well, remember, if you're running a Bitcoin node, it's so that you can be sovereign over your own money, right? Like if you're depending on somebody else, if there's any sort of external dependency, then you have third party dependencies. And as Nick Szabo once said, third parties dependencies are security holes, and you don't want to do that if possible. So the reason to run your own node is so that you could be sovereign over your own coins. Now, a lot of people don't find that to be that useful, or they find the third party stuff to not be quite as useful or too hard to set up or something like that. And nodes have been going down. I think Jameson Lopp has been doing really good work on like sort of seeing year over year where the nodes are, who they are, how many there are, and so on. But there does seem to be something of a decline. I mean, this is happening in a bear market. That's just kind of normal. All right, let's see other stuff. Merry Christmas to you guys too. Dow Jones down. Why aren't miners using decentralized mining pools? Because they don't make money off of decentralized mining pools. The thing that the way that mining pools make money is that they take basically a tax for the reduction in variance. So they're providing a service, right? Like am I frozen right now? I have no idea if I'm frozen. So let me stop the video and then start the video again and see if okay, right there. I'm back. So the way that works is that pools make money by taking a little bit of a percentage, like 1% or something like that, and that ends up like paying for their server costs and then like a little bit of profit. All right, let's see other stuff. Will Bitcoin get sidechain features soon? If so, what are some practical applications of sidechains that are considered day to day? So there's already Liquid, and that's what you would call a federated sidechain. You basically trust that a super majority of the players in that sidechain are honest. And if so, then you could trust them. But and you could put money in that sidechain. The nice thing about that sidechain is that you can move money around really, really fast, and that's the idea. So right now, what they do is they have lots of exchanges and stuff. So if you need to take money from one exchange and put it to another, you could do that almost instantaneously, and that's really useful. Why is that useful? Well, I mean, think about doing a normal Bitcoin transaction from one exchange to another. That takes like an hour, 2 hours, something like that. It's a lot faster. So that's why they call it Liquid. That's the name. It brings liquidity to exchanges because people can transact on it fast. So I would say that's like sort of the first one. You could get on the Liquid sidechain by depositing to a particular address. There's no real consumer-friendly way to do that yet. But if you had money in the Liquid sidechain, then what you could do is, eventually be able to deposit to these exchanges really quickly instead of, like keeping your deposit on the exchange. You still control your own keys. Now, you still have to trust the super majority, but they're not going to be like running away with your money. Instead, you deposit and it's almost instantaneous because it gets signed blocks really quickly, and then you have a balance on the exchange, trade it for whatever, and then get out, and then you're good. So it brings more liquidity. That's the idea, and apparently they have other assets that you can issue. So it's possible to issue Litecoins on there, and then like be able to do something with Litecoins. But you have to go off chain in order to actually transfer it back to that original chain, something like that. So it's a really cool idea. There are other side chains. I mean, side chains as a concept are just like a giant topic in of itself. So I would say it can get as creative as the people that are making something out of it. All right, let's see what other stuff. How transactions will be added to the blockchain when all BTC are mined? Well, I mean, it's a common question. It's based on the fee market. If you have people that are wanting to get transactions in, they have to pay the miner in order to do it. There you go. All right. All right. I think that's about it for questions. Thank you for joining me on this Christmas Eve. It's been a lot of fun. This past year has been kind of crazy, right? Like I've been going more or less through a bear market. Let me take a little bit of time to show you some other stuff that I will be involved with. So let's go to that application window. All right, so my seminar in Las Vegas is coming up in a month. So I think you have like 3 more days to sign up if you want to get the early bird rate. The London one is about 2 or 3 weeks after that. That's going to be fun as well. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to cover, and I'm currently working on a new seminar where this seminar will be the prerequisite, and that's going to be Programming Wallet, and that's going to be the lead-in to the 3rd class that I want to teach, which will be Programming Lightning. Anyway, Programming Blockchain, the next 2 ones are in Las Vegas and London. I'm not sure when the one after London will be, but one's in the US, one's in Europe. Those are good places to go. So that's one thing. My book is available on Amazon. There's a link to it in the show notes. This cover will change. So the honey badger is going to be in color now because the interior of the book will be in color. I'm still hoping for an early March release date. I do want to have a book launch party. Stay tuned for details, and we will go from there. All right. Another one is the conference that Tone is running. it's not a coincidence that it's in Las Vegas, because my seminar is going to be at the exact same venue, and then the 26th I will be speaking at that panel. Anyway, you can see my picture on there. There's only one VIP ticket, and that's going to give you access to more stuff and better seating and all that stuff. There's also normal standard stuff. Anyway, this is definitely going to be more of a maximalist event, and that's going to be awesome. And we need more events like this. So please come. Oh, and remember, there's a carnivory dinner as always. Really fun stuff. All right. The other stuff that we have is the other conference that I will be going to is Advancing Bitcoin. That's in London, February 7th and 8th. Not a coincidence that my seminar is on the 9th and 10th. But this is going to be talking about Bitcoin, and it's mainly for developers who are who know the basics but want to know more. And a lot of these guys are like former alumni of my course and stuff. But really, really cool people. It's mostly developers speaking for developers. These are obviously really good developers. You can see core dev here, Matt Corallo. You got Elaine, another developer. Callie and Nicola are also core devs. Justin, he runs the Bitcoin Build Bootcamp. Stepan, Jeremy and Jameson, like a lot of coders, right? Like this is for developers, and we're but not at like sort of like that scaling Bitcoin level where you have to know all, you have to be really deep in the weeds. This is more to help people build stuff by learning more about the various protocols. I will be talking about Neutrino, which is a client-side filtering mechanism for light nodes that should help in that regard. And I am apparently speaking the first day right around lunch. Hopefully that doesn't. That's going to be interesting. Anyway, it's a great conference. Hopefully you guys can make it. There will be a carnivory dinner as well. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, that about does it. Let's see. So. At some point, I do want to do like, add some other stuff to this show so I have more material. But hopefully that helps you. I enjoyed being here. Again, Merry Christmas to everybody. And this song is done.